Hello everybody and welcome back to another movie review with me, Trekflix. Now today I am going to be talking about a movie that came on request in the comments from my Venom review. Thank you very much to you guys, the watchers, and here is my thoughts on 1997's The Game, starring Michael Douglas. The Game, written by John Brancanto and Michael Ferris. This is the third movie from the acclaimed director of The Social Network, Seven and Zodiac, David Fincher. Starring Michael Douglas, Deborah Kara Unger and Sean Penn, the movie tells the story of wealthy investment banker Nicholas Van Orton, who accepts an open invitation as a birthday present from his brother Conrad, played by Sean Penn, to a company who specialises in reality-based games as such, hence the movie's name. Now, when I first saw this movie in 1998, roughly a year after its initial release, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did this second time around, which was about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and that was because this particular genre at the time wasn't my thing. So when I got this as a request from the watchers, my heart sank. But with us now in 2018, and me obviously 20 years older than I was then, my optimism shot through the roof when I remembered what the story of the movie was. So, as the first of a more abstruse movie to break down, let's get on with it. This movie blew me away on my second viewing. I honestly didn't think that after this length of time The Game would hold up against today's standards, but man was I wrong. Now, as an inexperienced reviewer, I have had to look back at what some people have said about the movie, just to give myself a quick reference really. So I'm going to give a little shout out to the trusting words of Chris Stuckman. Thank you for your videos, mate. You're an inspiration, you really are. And also to the late duo of Siskel and Ebert. Rest in peace, gentlemen. The idea for The Game is fantastic as a reality-based role-play type game where you test it to the limits of your mental strength. So as this film progresses, you actually feel like you yourself are a part of what's happening once everything is set in motion, to test us as the viewer also. Making a stage scenario feel genuinely real isn't a very difficult task to do from a filmmaker's point of view, because it's their job. They do it day in, day out. But David has directed this so well that you can't tell what's real from what isn't once that part of the film has actually started, the actual game has actually started. And that's the beauty of this film, its ability to make you a part of what's going on. The movie does move at a good pace and is consistent for the type of film that it is, but there are unanswered questions by the end of this movie, which, by the way, I felt was far too convenient. I wasn't keen at all. I wasn't keen on it at all. However, this comes down to a lack of a clear antagonist other than CRS in question. I think this was a bold move that there was no singular person responsible for what went on in this movie. Now, even though I've said that I wasn't keen on the ending, the idea of there being unanswered questions for me is a good thing, as I myself am a fan of thrillers such as this one. So watching a movie like this is awesome. Now, to me, this is what makes a mystery thriller as this one so bloody good to watch. Now, I know I'm no film director, but getting back to the end of the movie, and I will just give you all a moment on this one, for those that have seen the movie and know what I'm talking about. Why did we need a happy ending? It didn't fit, and as other people have said, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't justify what happened throughout the movie. Don't get me wrong, it's been very well directed and photographed. The noir feel and look David brings to his movies is why I come back for his works. Now, personally, I wouldn't come back to this movie for a good while, a good 2 to 3 years at most, because The Game is one of those movies that you need to forget about based on the events of the feature, may I add. Now, Michael Douglas, this guy needs no introduction. I say this with certitude, and with this list of works from him, I don't need to go any further on this fabulous actor. Now, as this list of movies has made us aware, Michael is a very well-rounded actor who can fit into any character he wants to, and does it effortlessly, which is something you don't see too often in today's movies, with the exception of maybe Danny McBride and the late Robin Williams. The Game brings us Nicholas Van Orton, who is so narcissist and self-absorbed that not only has he cut near enough all of his ties to the outside world, including his own family, but has also forgotten himself in the process, so much so that his obnoxiousness gets the better of him, which is actually, for plot reasons, quite fitting. We do, however, get the odd moment here and there where there's the odd joke from Nicholas, which kind of balances the tone of the feature well. One example is the scene in the back alley while he and Deborah Unger's character Christine are running away from CRS. Now, I liked Deborah Unger's performance as Christine. She's feisty and to the point. The chemistry between her and Michael works really well here, and for an actress up until then was pretty much an unknown to Hollywood, she did really well against Michael, who we all know is a very established actor with, at the time, 20 years behind him. I've only seen a small handful of work that Deborah has done, such as Highlander 3 The Sorcerer, which was a poor film, but I felt that Deborah contributed to it being better than it should have been. Then there's David Cronenberg's Crash from 1996 and Payback with Mel Gibson, which was her next movie after this one. So she was pretty much the go-to actress at the time who could hold her own in a taut thriller. Here, she carries her character and the exposition reasonably well to a degree, and doesn't make the film too discombobulated, even though there are a couple of plot holes that pop up here and there. For the best part though, her relevance in the movie isn't really fully addressed until the end of the second act, which kind of threw me off guard because I'd completely forgotten about this particular scene. Now, what baffles me is, in the lead up to the end of Act 2, we've had all of this crazy stuff happening here, there and everywhere, to not exactly everything, but like revelations being made. Now, I think this was a bit too early to be making revelations. I don't know why they're seeing it relevant to write it in. They should have kept us guessing right until the last 10 minutes of the movie. But aside from that, Deborah did really well here. She flushed the character out very well with what she had to work with, and the more I think about it, actually turned in a decent shift. It was a very, very subtle shift in character from that end of Act 2, and I thought that was kind of good for the movie. It needed something. It needed something more to work with. Now, as far as Sean Penn's concerned, it's no surprise that he was cast as Conrad, Nicholas's brother, after Jeff Bridges passed up on the role. He has proven time and time again that he's a masterful dramatic actor, with the likes of Gangster Squad, the remake of the 1948 political drama All the King's Men, based on the 1946 novel of the same name, Carlito's Way, and his Oscar-winning performance as Jimmy Markham in Mystic River. So it was rather a blessing that this came around for him. Sean only has a small handful of scenes in the game, which for me was disappointing. However, it does put them to good use. He works well with Michael, but I felt he was so underutilised. This is Sean Penn we're talking about here, who is a very intelligent actor who specialises in movies with dark tones, and very much like this one, and has a screen presence like no other. And the more you see him in this movie, the more you want to see of him. To me, Conrad was written way better than Christine, and didn't deserve to be a side character. He has a tendency of exaggerating the characters he portrays, depending, but with the little screen time that he has in the game, he makes it go a long way. On further analysis, what is so captivating about the movie is the fact that throughout there's this sense of uneasiness of what's going to transpire, and to be honest, this is one of the reasons why I'm so drawn to Fincher's works. Alien 3 was the sign of what his capabilities were in feature film, and I really like that movie for that particular reason. 7 is another and probably the better example, as it was handled a lot better than Alien 3 and probably this movie as well, unfortunately. But this isn't an issue because we've got the high tension and Michael Douglas to thank for. The game isn't the greatest movie David has brought to the table, but is still an uneasy experience with some scenes that are a thing of nightmares, with probably the best Michael Douglas performance ever. As one of the more thought-provoking movies, I highly recommend giving this a watch if you haven't seen it yet. The game gets a 7 out of 10.
So thank you for tuning into this video, guys. I really appreciate your time on this one. It's not been the easiest review I've had to write up, so and I do apologise if I have repeated what other people have said. As explained in the review itself, I'm not an experienced reviewer, so like I've had to go back and see what people have said, so just so that I could really gather my thoughts and that. So yeah, so again, thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, you can hit that like button, subscribe if you like, and leave me your thoughts on what you thought of the movie. So I'm going to do my pleasantries now, everybody, and I will see you next time.